speaks to us from San Francisco at KALW. Daniel Levitin, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks for having me back on your show, Mike.
You say that our fundamental problem is that we have more things to handle than our brains are capable of handling. How do we cope and at what price in efficiency or accuracy?
Well, this really is an age of information overload, and I think all of us feel it. We feel like no matter how hard we work, we are falling behind. And there's some data on this. The average American takes in 5 times as much information today as we took in 1986. That's the equivalent of reading 175 newspapers from front to back. And we've created a world that has 300 exabytes, that's a 300 with 18 zeros after it, of human-made information, compared to 5 years ago when there were only 30 exabytes. So we've created more information in the last 5 years than in all of human history before it.
Well, that makes us much smarter, right?
It does, except that it's like trying to drink from a fire hose, Mike. If you stand right in front of it, you're not going to get what you need. We have to employ some strategies to make it work for us.
You write of the fact that our brains can deal with 2 people talking at once, amazing that, and make more or less sense out of what both are saying. But what happens when we add that fatal third voice?
Well, it exceeds the processing limitations of neurons in the brain. In most circumstances, you can't understand 3 people talking at once. 2 is the max, and even at that, you're straining the attentional capacity of the system. And if you realize that we're on a planet with 7 billion people, you can only understand 2 people talking at once. No wonder there's so much conflict.
Have you talked with any producers of television talk shows or newscasts that have a panel of 5 on the panel and they all talk at once and they expect to be news teams? This is
Mike, they haven't had me on their programs.
oh my goodness, it drives me crazy every night. I shout, shut up! 2 of you talk at once. I don't know why the TV people haven't gone on to this truth, but anyway, that's one reason we sometimes don't think we get the information we deserve.
Well, what makes for good television, entertainment-wise, isn't necessarily what makes for good education or good communication.
That's true, I suppose. But on the other hand, you say that note-taking is an exercise in clearing the mind. Talk about a difference from 2 or 3 voices. Explain the rules.
Well, it turns out that the brain, in addition to being able to only understand 2 people at a time, the brain can only hold about 3 or 4 separate, unrelated ideas in mind at a time. Any more than that, one of them gets lost. And so I think most of us these days have all these thoughts, kicking around in our heads while we're trying to work or trying to enjoy our leisure time. You've got these nagging thoughts like, oh, I forgot to give Roger that file at work, and I told Aunt Mary that I would respond to her phone message, and I've got these 5 emails that I forgot to reply to, and oh, I said I'd get working on the Penske file. That's 4 things right there.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to do your job or just relax with your loved ones, they're competing for neural resources and crowding out other things. So writing things down, getting that chatter out of your head and into the physical world is one of the important and, admittedly low-tech steps that all of us can take to grab back some control over our lives.
Boy, it's tough doing this in this day of multiple images.
It is.
Images and voices, yeah.
It is. It turns and writing things down engages deeper attentional processing than, say, typing them. It's deeper cognitive processing, and so you're more likely to remember. And what the experts recommend is putting one idea or thought or to-do item on separate index cards. That way, if you've got only one item on a card, it's easy to sort them and resort them and put them in different piles.
You keep stressing throughout that it's wise to delegate routine to something other than memory, because the memory isn't perfect either. The rule of designated space, for example, the placement of your car keys, put them the same place every day. Explain how that works to free the mind for other stuff.
Well, so we humans have evolved this fabulous structure called the hippocampus, which has exquisite place memory. It's the part of the brain in London taxicab drivers that gets enlarged after they learn to navigate from memory. It's the part of the brain in a squirrel that tells him where he buried his nuts. And hippocampal place memory in humans is very accurate, but mainly for things that don't move around. You know, in our evolutionary history, you had to remember where the well was, where the fruit trees were, and they weren't moving. So the problem is every time you set your car keys down, or your reading glasses, your passport, whatever it is that you tend to lose, if you tend to put them down in a different place, they crowd out your memory, all those different places. None of them stand out. You can't remember the last place you put it versus the second to the last or the third to the last. So the strategy here, based on neuroscience, and I suppose common sense, is to designate a particular place where you put your keys, and they're always there. It could be a hook by the front door, could be a decorative bowl on a console table. Same thing with, you know, your reading glasses or your cell phone. Have a designated place where they go, and then they're always there. And for travelers, if you're in a hotel room, one trick is to take a towel from the bathroom, spread it out on the desktop or on the top of the dresser, and make that your designated spot for everything that you want to empty out of your pockets, so that you, when you leave the room to check out, you don't have your things willy-nilly in all different corners of the room, which is a way to leave them behind.
Our guest is Daniel Levitin. His book is The Organized Mind, Thinking Straight in the Age of Information Overload. I'm feeling sorry for all the listeners who are saying, I always put my keys in the same place, which is why it drives me nuts when I can't find them. Because I always look in the same place to find them, and when they're not there, it's really bad. But on the other hand, you say there are 3 organizational rules. A mislabeled item or location is worse than an unlabeled item. If there's an existing standard, use it, and don't keep what you can't use. Give us some examples of how you apply those rules.
Well, so a mislabeled box or bin or file or document on your computer is actually worse than an unlabeled one, because if you're looking for something, you're looking for, you know, anything, whether it's a digital file or an actual artifact in your life, you're going to look in the usual places and you hope that somebody, maybe you or somebody else, stored it in the right place. If it's mislabeled, you're going to tend not to look in that place,
right,
because it says it's something else. If it's unlabeled, you think to yourself, oh, well, it could be there. It could be one of the many unlabeled things. I'm not advocating unlabeled, but I am advocating that labels be accurate. Otherwise, they use up an enormous amount of cognitive resources in sort of filtering out your attention, because you're not going to look there, because it's not supposed to be there. Now, what was the second thing you mentioned? Because I'm not keeping any of this in my head.
Pay attention. If there is an existing standard, use it.
Well, this again comes to the idea of cognitive economy, and all these 3 things might come under the rubric of externalize your memory to the best that you can, get things out of your head and into the environment. A classic example of that is if you hear on the weather report it's going to rain tomorrow, rather than just try and will yourself to remember to bring the umbrella, take the umbrella out of the closet, put it by the front door where you'll see it when you're leaving the house, and now the environment is reminding you of what you need to do. The idea of the existing standard, I think, is, I mean, the most obvious one is that in North American bathrooms and kitchens, if you've got 2 taps, the hot water's on the left, the cold water's on the right. You don't need to label the handles because that's the standard. But, you know, every once in a while, plumbers mess up, and then they have to label, because they hooked them up wrong, they have to label the taps. That just creates a lot of cognitive overload. Why not follow the standard?
And when you go to France, be careful. Because they don't have that standard necessarily.
Well, and then, of course, in France, sometimes they only label the hot water, and they label it with C for chaude.
Yeah.
But we might think that the C means cold.
One of the strangest things you advocate, and I read the passage twice to make sure, this is a modern age. Lots of information. You say, even with computers and databases, you advocate copies of everything on paper. This is supposed to be the paperless world.
It is, and you know, to be fair, I give voice to both sides of the debate, and I quote 2 experts who have about this, and I tend to lean towards the paper, and here's why. As far as we know, paper lasts for 300, 400, 500 years. I mean, there are books in libraries that are perfectly legible that were made 500 years ago. And I've got papers that my great-grandfather left, his immigration papers, for example. But I've got computer files that are 10 years old that I can no longer open. They were created with a program that no longer exists, or a version that's no longer supported, on an operating system that's no longer supported. And if your files are important to you, the problem with the digital age is that it's pretty much a certainty that at some point a format change is going to come along, rendering your files unreadable. The digital files can get corrupted in the way that the paper ones can't. I'm not advocating keeping everything on paper, but important things, it's nice to have on paper. You spill a little coffee on it, it's still readable. You spill coffee on your laptop.
Oh, you laugh.
You know what happens next.
Yeah. One of the best and most true statements that you have in your book, which I have believed for years, is that multitasking is not efficient. Every time I hear